Hello, welcome everyone. Water Reuse Arizona is pleased to welcome you to our program today entitled Reused Water and Organic Farming. My name is Lisa Colbert and I am the Executive Administrator for Water Reuse Arizona, and I will be your moderator for today's program. Before we get started, a few logistical notes. Please note that today's program will be about 60 minutes, including the Q&A afterwards. It is being recorded, and for those joining us via webinar, your lines will be muted during this broadcast. If you need assistance, please send a message by typing it into the chat box located on the panel on the left side of your screen. You will be able to download the presentation when you complete the survey at the conclusion of this webcast. Your participation is key to the success of this session, so please don't hesitate to submit questions. We will answer questions at the end of the webcast during the question and answer period. We encourage you to submit questions at any time during this webcast. For those that are joining us in person, we ask that you hold your questions until the end of the program. There is one professional development hour available for this webcast. If you would like to enlarge your view of the slides, please click the full screen button in the upper right corner of the window. To use the chat box, you must exit the full screen view. So now it is my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Donovan Neese is currently the Superintendent of the Roosevelt Irrigation District. He is a registered professional engineer with consulting experience in construction and design. Donovan has a master's in business administration with an undergraduate degree in civil engineering. He is a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Colorado River Water Users Association, and the United States Committee on Irrigation and Drainage. He also sits on the board of the Irrigation and Electrical Districts Association and is the Vice President of the Agribusiness and Water Council of Arizona. He is joined by Robert McClendon from McClendon Farms. Born in Tucson, Arizona, Mr. McClendon is a second-generation native Arizonan. He graduated from the University of Arizona College of Pharmacy in 1966, and during his college years worked as a lab assistant for the USDA Bee Research Station and as an assistant in the college's medicinal plant greenhouse. Bob and his wife purchased their first home located on 2 acres in the Northwest Valley, and with it, Bob's love for growing citrus and vegetables finally found a home. In 1975, the McClendons purchased 10 acres in the Arrowhead Ranch area, and in 1992, the acreage was expanded to 25 acres. Citrus, dates, and more than 100 varieties of vegetables were planted on this expanded acreage. Bob recognized the growing demand for organic fruit and produce, and in 2000 started transitioning the 25 acres to organic farming methods. In 2005, this property became certified organic, and Bob started selling at farmers markets at different locations in the valley under the name of McClendon Select. His business began to grow rapidly, and prominent valley chefs started to buy his fruit and produce for their restaurants. As McClendon Select business was expanding, it became clear that he needed more acreage to farm in order to keep up with the demand. In 2011, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America entered into an agricultural lease agreement for McClendon to farm 25 acres located directly behind their hospital in Goodyear, Arizona. Another 43 acres was added in 2014. Bob now farms a total of 93 acres in Peoria and Goodyear with his son, Sean. McClendon Select participates in 3 large farmers markets every week and grows from more than 80 restaurants across the state. Donovan and Bob, I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, I'm Bob McClendon, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce Donovan Neese, Superintendent of the Roosevelt Irrigation District, where we get all of our water that we farm with in our Goodyear farm. And I'll turn it over to Donovan.
Thanks, Bob and Lisa. Yeah, I appreciate the chance to talk to you guys today And so if I mess anything up, you guys go ahead and yell at me for whatever terminology I'm not smart enough to use. So I've been at the district for about 6 years now, and we have been receiving water treated effluent for, a while, over 25 years or so, from 23rd Avenue in Phoenix, 23rd Avenue Treatment Plant. And then we've added additional effluent sources over the years. And additionally, we take effluent from Liberty Utilities. And actually this week we just started taking water from the city of Buckeye. So that's actually pretty exciting for us. So hopefully Goodyear will be discharging to us soon as well. But haven't been able to complete all that work yet. So, all right, let me get started. A little introduction to the district here. Lisa, if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, there's my district. We have 37,000 acres, and about a third of that's really been developed, including in the area where Bob farms. So we're in Goodyear, Avondale, and Buckeye. And we run from about the Agua Fria River all the way up to Hacienda River. So that's where most of our district is. On the north side, it's like at about I-10, and then runs all the way down to the Buckeye Water District's canal. And we make deliveries into our laterals every half mile, and then deliver to our customers out of those laterals. We can go to the next slide. There we go. Most of our water comes from in town in Phoenix. We have two main well fields. One of them runs up and down 107th Avenue all the way up to Peoria, and then runs down nearly to Thomas. Our other site is down, actually starts at around the state capitol area, so it runs from 19th Avenue all the way up to 83rd between Van Buren and Lower Buckeye. So I guess if you're listening somewhere else, you wouldn't really know where any of that is, so I apologize for that. And the map's very small to read, so there you go. But that's not too helpful. We got started in 1923 with a contract with SRP, Salt River Project, who runs water inside of Phoenix there, and they had a very waterlogged area down by where the Capitol is, and we have an agreement with them to dewater that area. It wasn't really farmable, so it was good for them, and then we take the water out underneath the Agua Fria and provide it to our district. And so it's good for SRP, and it was very good for us. And we've been doing that for over 80 years now. Where we go underneath the river, this is one of our big claims to fame. We built this flume across the river here. It was 6,000 feet long, and it was the world's largest flume at the time that it was built. So there we are, we're on the map. So now it's been changed, and it goes underneath the river. We have an inverted siphon underneath the river, and we cameraed it not long ago. It was very exciting, a lot of turtles and other exciting things down there, so that was fun. We've got, let's see, where are we at? We've got about 80 miles of canal, and most of our canals all come together in one big canal, and then the laterals come off of that, like I said. We've got 140 miles of laterals to keep track of, and over 100 wells. So this is kind of an introductory of who we are and what we do. This is our office, built in 1928, and pretty much looks just like that. April was out there yesterday and looks just like that. And they tuck me back in the corner so I don't bother anybody. So that seems to work out pretty good. We move about 160,000 acre-feet of water every year, give or take, and most of that being groundwater, with a significant percentage, whatever that works out to be, 20-some-odd% of our water coming from 23rd Avenue. And there's a picture of it here on the slide. So it's about out the bottom end, tail end of our system, the furthest east and south part of our system, we get this water from 23rd Avenue. And we have a contract with the City of Phoenix to get up to 60,000 acre feet from them, but the reality is it's usually less than 30. When this agreement to start getting this water from the City of Phoenix started, the City of Phoenix and SRP were negotiating with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community over their water rights. I wasn't there then, so I'm not sure how all that went, but it resulted in they were able to use our infrastructure to exchange some water. And so we get water from 23rd Avenue, and the City of Phoenix magically does some 3-card money, and they get surface water out of it. So that works out great. If you're from the City of Phoenix, please correct me if I'm wrong here. So they get that water from SRP, and it's a great deal for everybody. We get water that's great for us and Bob, so that works out good. And if we ever get over that 30,000 acre feet, that goes into a different deal, and we actually pay the City of Phoenix for that water. And just last year that just finished up, we paid them a couple thousand acre feet. We went over the 30,000, so that was exciting. So let's see, where am I at on my notes? I got lost already. We can go to the next one. We got all kinds of arrows and silliness. We call this our three-way exchange. So this is kind of where the water and the money all go between the three parties there, which is actually 4 parties. So I'm not sure why we call it three-way exchange, but that's what it's always been. And the green arrows represent money. So Phoenix and us, we pay SRP for the water that we get, and we get the water from the City of Phoenix, and Phoenix gets the water from SRP, that magic water. And some of that apparently goes to the Indians some years, and I'm not sure which years that is or how that all agreement works, but I'm sure that the City of Phoenix understands that. So this exchange works out, like I said, very good for us. And so in the drought years, this triangle doesn't work the same, and SRP is not able to provide the water to the City of Phoenix in the same way, and so then it gets much simplified, and we just exchange water directly with the City of Phoenix. So, of course, it has to be a real bad drought for any of that to happen. I think that's only happened a couple of times over the last 25 years or so. So, still working out pretty good for all of us. Now, we're able to do that through our GSF, which is our Groundwater Savings Facility. We have a permit with the Department of Water Resources to over basically all 37,000 acres of our district. To when we deliver the water to our farmers, they put it on the field, and it magically recharges. So our agreement with our permit with DWR allows the City of Phoenix to collect credit on the recharged water. And so that's an additional benefit to the City of Phoenix. We can probably go to the next slide here. So here's the additional effluent I was talking about. That is Liberty Utilities treatment site, and we get water running up Bullard Avenue to our main canal. It's not nearly as significant as much water as it used to be, or that we get from the City of Phoenix. So it's probably only 400 or 500 gallons per minute, but we'll take it if it's wet. So in the desert, you can't be too picky about how wet things are. So, and then on to the next slide there. Those are 2 additional sites. The one on the bottom left there, that's the City of Buckeye site that we just started getting flow from literally this week, and so we've still got some kinks to iron out with that, and that's but it's very exciting for us. The red circle there off to the right is the City of Goodyear's treatment facility, and they're working out some details to do some plumbing with Liberty Utilities to try to get all that water delivered to this wherever Liberty's doing. So they've got some agreements to work on it, I'm sure. Is anybody from Goodyear here? Okay, good. Then I can make up whatever stories I want. It works out great.
Maybe somebody on the phone.
What's that?
Maybe somebody on the phone.
There you go, yeah. No, Lisa's going to click for us. So, oh, yeah. This is what Bob's going to tell you about his farm. And great shot here, by the way. Here you go, Bob. This is the laser pointer right there. Okay, yeah. There you go. Doesn't show up on the screen too good.
Doesn't work.
Okay, sorry about that.
So much for that. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Bob McClendon, and you're looking at an aerial photo shooting to the east, and on the left-hand side is Interstate 10. There we go. And on the southern border is a street that has been renamed called Celebrate Life Way. City of Goodyear renamed that at the request of the Cancer Treatment Center of America. You'll see their big hospital complex there. They built that complex on 25 acres. They own from Litchfield Road all the way, you can't see on the screen, to Bullard, which is a mile. And I'm guessing, maybe a quarter of a mile in width all the way across there. And this whole thing started when the chef at the hospital wanted to use, they have always used organic produce, organic meat, organic chicken, wild-caught fish as part of their treatment. Not that you can cure cancer, I have to be very careful about saying that, but they feel like it's what your diet is very important in certainly in preventing cancer, and when they're treating cancer, they want their patients to have nothing but organic produce that's free of pesticides, as most conventional produce has. Let's go to the next slide. When I first looked at this property, the chef had called me for us to provide him, like we provide our 80 restaurants, our organic fruit and produce that we grow. When he first called me, I went out and took a look at the property, and what I found was very primitive irrigation system that had been used for decades on this property. This property has had tenant farmers on it for literally decades, and someday I'm sure it'll all be developed. But as a result, no one has wanted to put any real infrastructure into the way they use their water, the way they irrigated their crops. So in the upper left picture, you'll see an open dirt canal with siphon tubes that they irrigate out of. And then in the bottom right picture, you can see the hospital in the far background. Those are wheat fields. And when I looked at it, it's just a big earthen ditch, and you can see where the water, there's a leak in the water where the water is rushing out into the wheat field, and just tremendous waste of water because of the primitive system that they were using on that land. And I immediately said, I can't farm that the way I need to farm it, because when we farm vegetables, especially, every different vegetable requires different levels of water, different frequencies of irrigation, and I need to be able to, so to speak, turn on a switch. And I can't call the RID and say, give me 200 inches of water in the ditch, and manage that through siphon tubes and get it to where I want it very well. So let's go back to the first slide. There we go. So if you look at this, this was taken when we had, directly behind the hospital, we had that 25 acres there is fallow, and we were down on the 43 acres that we added into this project. That's you can see where the green crops are from here. And then we built a reservoir that holds holds 8 million gallons of water from the RID, and you'll see a canal, concrete canal that feeds it, going at a diagonal. And so when we order water, we let our reservoir get down to probably 80%. Then we order water from RID, and we just fill it up. And go on, let's go 2 more slides now. So tremendous amount of work had to be done. The hospital actually prepared all this ground for my specifications, spent a ton of money to do this. I could have never afforded to do what they did with this ground. Here you see a picture of the reservoir after it was excavated, and the blue pipes on the top picture, that's basically where we pump the water out of the bottom, and that's before the drain was put in, etc. You can see the earth movers up in the top left-hand corner. It's a pretty good-sized reservoir. And top picture is where they're lining it, and they're dragging the liner out before we fill it with water. And then the bottom right picture, those are 2 Lacos sand filters. We filter all of our water down to 100 microns. We water everything with drip irrigation, and that is the pump and filtration setup that we built. And then we got 6-inch pipe running all over this 68 acres of ground, 25 up on top, and then down at the lower level is another 43. So we plumb that with 6-inch PVC pipe, and we come up with manifolds that we can adjust pressures and run all of our drip lines off of. One of the PhDs from the NRCS in Avondale came and looked at what I wanted to do before I designed all of this, and he said that we would save about 60% of the water that was previously used the way they were doing it with row and furrow irrigation. And so by using drip irrigation and doing this infrastructure. This is just a shot looking at toward I-10 from the south. This is baby lettuce mix, beds that are about 600 foot long. On the far right are baby spinach. You go all the way to the right. That's young arugula. We do a lot of organic salad greens, and overall more than 150 different kinds of vegetables, including citrus, which we grow at our Peoria farm. All the citrus and the dates are grown there, as well as some specialty crops. Most of our production is at the Goodyear farm. We run a refrigerated truck out, which you can see way in the distance. And when we're harvesting, every time we get a harvest bin full of product, it goes in that truck, which is running at about 35 degrees. And so it goes into an immediate cool down. So when we get back to the Peoria facility where we pack it all out and wash it, pack it, and get ready to ship it, it starts its cold cycle right here in the field and never leaves that until it's delivered to our customers. Let's go one more. And that's back to Donovan's canal. You didn't see that slide, did you?
Huh?
That's your slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you use
that? Was just.
Okay.
That was the end.
All right. That's the end.
You sent me.
That's the end. So it's been a real symbiotic relationship with the hospital. They use maybe 1 or 2% of what we grow. We're able to grow and sell 98+% of what we grow there. We lease the ground from them. I have a lease agreement with them. And we take the risk of that 43 acres, especially right on Litchfield Road and Celebrate Life Way. We take the risk of that being sold at any time and putting a car dealership up or who knows what. But anyway, I took that risk, and it cost us about $50,000, $60,000 just to plumb that so we could drip irrigate it. And we're hoping that it doesn't happen for a while, but that's a risk we take as not owning the land.
Lisa, could you go back to Bob's aerial shot of his? There you go. Well, that was all that we had prepared. I mean, I think it's for us it's exciting that Bob's able to farm within our district. I know that there was a lot of conversations early on about the quality of our water, and as far as I'm aware, vegetables are pretty sensitive to water quality. So we provided all of our testing, all of our testing sheets, and he reviewed all that and did some testing of his own, and so presumably you found it was all right.
Yeah, I was when I started out with this, I was very cautious, and so I asked RID for all kinds of water analysis and testing. Now I actually took samples from their canals and had it independently tested, because water is critical to our success. There's two things that we start with, and water's one and soil's the other. And this ground had been tenant farmed for so long to where they just put enough chemicals into it to get a crop out, which is what conventional farmers pretty much do. And we had to go through on the 25 acres where the lagoon reservoir is built, we had to go through a 3-year wait period before we could get it certified. So it became transitional organic, and we farmed it exactly as you would if it were organic for 3 years before it became certified. The 43 acres, I researched that, and it hadn't been farmed for at least 15 years that I could tell, and they'd always mechanically cultivated the weeds and not used Roundup on it. So I was able to get that 43 acres certified within just 2 or 3 months. There was no 3-year waiting period. But the water has worked out well. The whole system is like a dream come true. When I first proposed it and they took it to the board of directors says, yeah, we'd be real interested in doing that, but let's find out what it costs. So I said, okay, well, at the end of that dream. And they had all the contractors bid it, and tremendous amount of earth was moved. There was, I don't know how many thousand cubic yards of soil that they had scraped off to build the hospital. It was in great big mountains. And aesthetically, they didn't like that. It didn't bother me at all, but they didn't like it. So they wanted me to use that and level it out. This ground from the bottom of the picture to the top of the picture drops about 20 feet. So it's now laser leveled. I've got 2 levels, the upper level, the bottom level. And when they came back with the amount of money that it was going to take to do this, I said, well, it was a nice dream. They sent it to their national board of directors, and they approved it. And construction started immediately. Took us about 8 or 9 months, and we're really enjoying the relationship.
So the water out here in the Goodyear, and it gets worse as you head out the Buckeye further to the west, is fairly salty. This area is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,000 parts per million salt, and that wouldn't work for Bob. And as you get out the Buckeye, it gets up to 3,000 and 4,000 parts per million. So the water that we pump from inside Phoenix and we get from 23rd Avenue is right near about 1,000 parts per million. And unless your independent lab said something different.
No, right there.
So we're able to use the water for any purposes that we want. The water that we get out of 23rd Avenue and all the other facilities is all Class A plus, and so my operations manager has actually drank the water coming out of 23rd Avenue, but I haven't yet. So he's a little more daring than I am. But anyway, it's good for whatever we want to use it for, and it's exciting to see a little more progressive uses of reuse that you guys are all working very hard to make happen, and we appreciate that. The more that we can get over this PR issue that you all have, the better off we'll all be, especially when we live in the desert. So I thank you guys for all your hard work.
No, salt is a problem for everyone growing in the desert, period. And 1,000 parts per million, magnesium, calcium, not too much sodium, but there's some. We can live with that, and there are certain varieties of vegetables that are more salt tolerant than others. And after doing this for about 20 years, I figured out what those are. So we are very set in every new variety that comes out. I'll try it if it looks like it could be good, but we stay with our tried and true varieties of our vegetables that we know can tolerate that kind of salt level, and it works well. And we add new things all the time. I'm always experimenting. We're always doing trial plantings, but a good number of them don't work out because it's just either a climate or water or soil. Some of the new varieties just won't grow very well.
Bob, at about what limits would you say you really wouldn't be able to grow vegetables anymore as far as salt goes?
I think that as we approach 1,500 to 2,000, we'll start seeing some real problems. At 3,000, I'm not sure what I could grow.
And you'll start seeing that in terms of yield and whatnot? Is that how that works?
Well, just you'll see a little bit in yield, but just overall total quality of what you produce and the plant health is, the plants just don't, when they get into high salt concentrations, they just don't grow well. They tend to be yellow. They can't uptake all the nutrients out of the soil that they need to grow and to thrive, and they just look sick.
Are there specific crops that you're contracted to grow through the hospital, or is it just kind of grow whatever it is?
We of course, we're very seasonal in our growing. Our main growing season, we actually start a lot of our plants in California in Gilroy, at a place called Head Start Nursery, and we send them the seed. They plant flats, and they ship them to us on a truck, and then we transplant a lot. So, for instance, we've got nice big leeks right now that are about this big that we started in May of 2016, and we're just now harvesting them. Well, our climate goes from hot to cold, and it doesn't stay temperate long enough to be able to do that. It doesn't stay temperate long enough. So that's why we're doing transplants in California at an organic nursery, and we pay them to do that. They ship it to us, and we transplant it, and that gives us a head start. So we really start planting late August, even though it's hotter than hell then. We start planting late August, and we're pretty much done, with the exception of a few crops. We're pretty much done end of June. July, August, September, anything that we've got growing, we still are growing. We grow a lot of basil at the Fria farm under shade cloth, 40% shade cloth, so it doesn't get sunburned. We grow summer squash and eggplant and a lot of the summer vegetables that we can grow. But the extent of all the green leafy vegetables or root vegetables, in the heat, carrots will start tasting soapy. Leaf vegetables will start getting bitter, and so we just don't do that in that heat of summer. But our prime time is literally October through end of June.
Bob, can you talk a little bit about the process for getting an organic certification? Because I know that's changed over time as they've developed that concept or demand.
The act, a national organic program called the NOP, which is an act that Congress passed to establish the USDA organic category. That was in the year 2000, and 2000 or 2001 that became an act, and it details very strict standards that we have to go by. So we can't use any raw animal manures because of concern over E. coli, salmonella, etc. We do use animal manure, but it's been composted, so it has to be at 165 degrees for 4 days. And we use the main NPK fertilizer that we use comes from Hickman's Egg Ranch out in Tonopah, and they have a wonderful compost program, and then they pellet it like rabbit pellets or chicken pellets, and it's pelleted so densely it actually becomes slow release. Because chicken poop is pretty strong stuff. So it becomes slow relief, and we put, like for our corn, we'll put 2 tons to the acre of that, and for our other vegetables we use 1 ton to the acre. We also use humates, fulvic acid, humic acid, that are naturally mined substances in New Mexico. We lace them with beneficial microflora, and then we use that to the tune of about 1 ton per acre. We get everything in the soil before we plant, and then we just add Donovan's water. By the time you see you've got a problem with the plant, it's too late. So we try to do everything pre-plant and just water it. We are starting to do some foliar feeding, but everything that we use has to be approved. There's an organization called OMRI, which is Organic Material Review Institute, and they review all these substances. Basically, they have to be natural. And there's really nothing new about organic farming, although it's it's the fastest growing segment of the food industry. But it's the way we did it before oil was discovered, and where they composted in cow manure and stuff, and they took care of their soil, they valued their soil, versus putting all the chemicals in the soil, getting a crop out, and adding more chemicals, and that's why they make you wait 3 years before you can get certified. So you can't use any synthetics. It has to be all natural ingredients. We do, when we have in the wintertime, sometimes we have a problem, especially right now where it's been raining so much. Our baby spinach wants to turn yellow. It gets too much water. And not that we're giving it the water, but every week we've been getting a lot of rain. So we do foliar feed that with a soybean nitrogen derived from soybeans. And we spray a foliar feed on it, and it's like painting it with a green brush. After you do that, about 2 days later, it all just turns beautiful green. So those are some of the techniques that we use, but everything is natural. We can't use any of the insecticides as you know them, but there's a whole area of expertise that some of the smart chemical companies are realizing that that their days of using a lot of these very strong pesticides that leave residues in our food, et cetera, are coming to an end. And so they are developing they're developing bacterial and fungal strains that will protect the plants. And actually, the oldest one, which you may have heard of, has been around for decades, and it's called Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT. And they use that on anything that's got a worm. The worm will eat just one of these spores, which are billions of spores in a teaspoon, and they get some kind of an infection in their gut, and they die 2 or 3 days later. But there's a whole category of spores, and I'll call them bioinsecticides, that are, you could eat them by the spoonful, it wouldn't bother you, but if you put them on your plant, it protects them from certain insect invasions. And that's kind of where everything's going, and this notion that organic farming could not feed the world is ridiculous, because where we're headed, our production and our yields are as good or better than any of the commercial farmers that I know and are producing large amounts. But water is our future, and we feel very secure with RID water in the future. Because when they run out of water, Phoenix runs out of water. Then we're all done.
Are there any other questions in the room?
You only use drip irrigation, I think. There's no spray irrigation at all.
Pardon?
You only use drip irrigation to conserve water, or drip irrigation?
Drip irrigation. You
Yes.
only use drip.
Yes, only drip. That's all we do. We have miles and miles of drip line. We have a special winder on the back of a tractor that winds it up, and so we can reuse it. And we can get 2 or 3 uses out of it. It's expensive, but we can get 2 or 3 uses out of it before it finally just gets enough debris in it that even though we filter it, it'll finally get some algae and things that will finally plug the little emitters up.
And is there any chlorine in the water that you get? Or
Chlorine? No. No. by law, we have to wash our produce in drinking, Class A drinking water that's chlorinated, like where we process at City of Peoria has a big water treatment plant, and there's a very low level of chlorine, but by law, we have to wash anything that we wash in that type of water. We can't use if we use well water, I have to test it every single day for contaminants, for E. coli, for whatever. So that's not practical, not when it costs that much money. And so that's the only chlorine that we have in our, quote, system, so to speak. All the drip irrigation that we use is made by Netafim, and Netafim is basically an Israeli company that is a world leader in drip irrigation because Israel has a climate very much like we do here in the desert, and they are the world leaders. They have the best products, and we tend to use as much as we can Netafim products.
Related to the testing that you just mentioned, we work with a lot of growers on SISMA implementation, so the Food Safety Modernization Act, FDA, has passed new rules and regulations. So we work with growers on how you test your water quality, where are you testing it, and I'm assuming that you might be exempt from that because you're receiving treated water from your district.
No, I don't think anybody's going to be exempt from the FMS.
Well, exempt from the water testing. So if you're receiving water from a treatment facility or treated water, they've put in some language that you don't have to test as rigorous as someone who's coming underground or surface water. So I'm wondering if that's like an added benefit using.
It could be. We're just now starting that process that we've got a couple of years to get everything into compliance. So we're just starting to go through that.
It's turned all of agriculture upside down, FSMA has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How much water for this farm area, you said, is mostly from 23rd? Is it all from 23rd Avenue, or do you have some wells additional?
Right, yeah, we have 100 wells, and so it all just goes into our canal, right, and mixes.
So overall, what is your percentage of reclaimed water, recycled water, and well water?
I think it's just over 20%. I mean, we run about 160,000 acre feet a year, and 30,000 of that comes from, so there's too much math in my head. But yeah, like 20% or so. And I mean, it's a very large source of our water.
But it sounded like for this particular farm, you got majority was basically salinity. You were saying 23rd Avenue.
No, I'm sorry if I get left that impression. No, what we have is most of our. Can we go back one slide there? Maybe one more. A couple more. And another one. And another one. And another one. I'm so sorry. Oh gosh, keep going back. Another one. There we are. So yeah. So that's all. Most of our wells that are in town, right? And so this is like 80% of my water in general, and all that mixes and then goes, including with 23rd Avenue, and then goes underneath the river and goes to my farmers. So I really don't turn on the pumps on the other side of the river basically until the summertime when my demand is so high. So it all is mixed up together before it ever really gets to the hospital there.
Well, I'm confused a bit. You talked about salinity. To explain your comments about salinity, you were saying that salinity gets higher as you go west.
I see. I'm just talking about the groundwater itself.
Groundwater,
Yeah.
you're talking about your system.
I'm sorry, just the groundwater itself gets
That I understand. I thought you
higher
were saying
salinity.
in your system got higher. So
Well, in truth it does, right? Because I have got wells along my canal as well. But, I mean, not significantly, right? Because this is the majority of my water. Yep, good question. So I would prefer to use these wells over the ones that are further to the west because they're cleaner.
What are the current capacities of the wells, the underground water? I attended one conference where they were talking a great deal about that and said that there was a 2-year guarantee of water, underground water, and we have a very good system here in Arizona compared to California. But what is your take on that in this particular district? What do we have in terms of guarantee of underground water?
I'm not sure what you mean by guarantee or the context under that conversation.
Water volume under,
But this water that is down on the bottom half of the picture here, the groundwater that's down there is, I mean, we have almost no drawdown in our wells. It's like it's been described as an underground lake. It's a very, I mean, the water just moves very easily through there. So we have, I mean, it's one of the best aquifers in the state. So, I mean, we don't really have, if you're talking about guarantee of water, I'm assuming that means in drought contingency, and so they're talking about if we were to pump this much from this area, then we only have this kind of reserve. We've been, I mean, this was a waterlogged area, so we've been pumping this for over 80 years, and almost no change in the water table.
So it's essentially the collection site, like Tempe is, for the water that comes into the valley. It's the bottom of the bowl.
That's probably a good description. I mean, you'd have to talk to the geologist to understand a little bit better than that, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, your system of canals and laterals,
Mm-hmm.
where does water go if you're not using it all? So, where's your outflow? Or do you?
Well, we run to Johnson Road, which is just shy of the Hacienda. So, I mean, eventually our water might make it to the Hacienda, but my operations manager, I make sure that we don't have any water running over that edge because I paid for all of it. So, yeah. So I make sure that we don't have any running over the edge, and that helps us to. You can just drive right out there and see what my efficiencies are, right? Because if it's going over, that's bad.
Right.
So, yeah. Does that answer your question, or
No, I
yeah?
I'm wondering about, like 23rd Avenue, and obviously they're pushing their water to you.
Yep.
As a priority, and then you're supplementing with well.
Right.
And then you can manage that very
So
easily.
because like about 80% of our water is groundwater, I know how much that is, right? Because that's all tested. We don't have any variable frequency pumps, so I turn it on, that's what comes out. And I know how much that is generally, and I know what my demand is, and so then I just turn on pumps to match that demand. 23rd Avenue is a little bit hard operationally because of the daily curve in flow there, and so it takes about 24 hours for water to get from about that green arrow all the way out to the west side of the district. A little shorter than that to get out to Bob's farm because he's further on the eastern edge of our district. But so in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, right, I'm getting nothing out of 23rd Avenue basically. And so my canal drops down, and so now, you know, and I got nobody out there in the middle of the night because we don't make changes during the middle of the night. And so we'll get phone calls, hey, my water dropped out or whatever. And so we try to manage that as best we can. We have an equalizing pond down on the lower end of our district, the further west end of our district, so that when it starts to drop out, we can use that pond to fill it back up in case we haven't exactly managed. And I can manage the pumps, like I said. It's just more difficult to manage what's coming in and out of 23rd Avenue and the timing of it. So we'll usually lose that end down there at the same time when it goes down at the 23rd Avenue, just a day behind. And so all my bad problems come in the middle of the night, when all the worst problems come in the middle of the night, right? So it gives us a little bit of an operational challenge. But during the summertime, those fluctuations are a little less noticeable because I'm running so much water. But like now, right, I don't have any pumps on right now. And it's, like Bob said, it's been so wet that, am I yelling? Is it too loud? Bob said it's been so wet that I think they told me I got 5 orders today. So rain's not good for when you run a water district, for sales anyway. So all the water that is in the canal basically right now is basically out of 23rd Avenue. And we can adjust how much comes in and out. So it really chopping off that peak like right now in the middle of the day is when our peak is. And so we can chop off a big chunk of that peak, and they send it out to the Agua Fria, I think, or the river. They send it to the river, and so it gives us some operational challenges. Yeah.
And how many days in advance do you first the order?
The day before. So I have no idea what my orders tomorrow will be until about 3. With the cutoff 3 o'clock. So it gives its own challenges of itself. And so then we scramble at the end of the day to get all our, well, not when I have 5 orders, we don't scramble, but we scramble at the end of the day to get all the sheets and all the operation stuff ready for the next day from between 3 and 5 or 6 or 7 or however long it takes to get that done. And then our Zen Heralds will come in and pick up all their orders, usually in the morning, especially during the summertime because it's not quite ready. And so we start making new orders at 6 o'clock the next day. Yeah.
All right, I have a ton of questions. What is the mix, like you talked about the entire, how many acres today?
We got about 37,000.
37,000. What percentage of that is produce versus other ag,
Right, yeah, great question. We really don't grow a whole lot of produce. Mostly what we have is cotton and alfalfa. Well, now it's alfalfa because the price of cotton these days, I don't know if anybody, you guys watch that, but it's really bad. And so alfalfa is up there, and so we grow some of that. And then we grow sorghum, corn, wheat, depending on whatever the pricing is. Historically, we've just mostly been a cotton district, and but the price of it is so bad that nobody's really growing any except for seed right now. So Bob's about the only one that grows a lot of produce. We have some onions. That's fun, and they're pretty salt tolerant, so that's nice. And Gary Mayfield runs some onions in our district. Feel free, blast me. I'm good.
Are there any other questions? Are there any questions from those of you that are on the webcast? If there is, you need to put it in the chat box. And I'm not seeing anything, so.
Hey, I had one for Bob. Question. I think you mentioned something about some of the soil amendment products and stuff that you use, and there was some discussion floating around our company about biosolids and organic farming. And the impression I got there is that they weren't allowed to use biosolids of any kind from any products from wastewater plant sludges.
We can't use sewage effluent, but this is not sewage effluent.
Well, I'm thinking of the solid part of it. You know,
the what now?
The solids, after they go through their digestion, stabilization, dewatering and all.
No, we cleared all that, and it's Class A water.
Class A water.
And they have no problem with that. But they do restrict any kind of sewage effluent.
Right.
Any kind of solids or raw animal manure that's not allowed.
Do you know, can any of those biosolids be amended, like in composted, and be used?
Well, years and years ago, Milwaukee, Wisconsin had a product called Mill Organite. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but I don't even know that it exists anymore. But they would go in there and clean the sewers and scrape them all out and take the solids and dry them,
Right.
but not compost them. They were just dried.
Right.
And people use that on their gardens and that kind of thing. But I don't know of any solids, even composted, that come from municipal systems that are being sold. I guess you could maybe treat them to high temperature and use them, but
you mentioned the 165 degrees for 4 days kind of thing. There's similar requirements on for certain classes of biosolids.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I've never seen anybody try to do that.
Yeah. The company in Texas that uses biosolids, they compost. Right. Have a co-compost. Yeah, they take that and add it to the other. Right, yeah. I've seen that before.
Glendale, actual putting there's pressure on 23rd Avenue. Is it going to grow in the future, or are they at capacity and build out? Will there be a need?
Might go the other way.
Right? So, does that mean more water or less water for the district in the future? I wonder, like, are you having those kinds of conversations? Are you not worried about it for now?
Obviously, we have to do a lot of coordination with the city of Phoenix,
Yeah.
and I think the last efficiency study the city of Phoenix did said you need to shut that entire plant down.
Yeah.
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 How big is 23rd right now?
57 million gallons a day, but they're not processing.
Yeah. 91st is a lot more efficient.
And has a lot of extra capacity.
Right.
Yeah. And not only that, but you know they got city of Phoenix got a sweet contract there with APS, right? So that's a whole lot better than anything they could ever make off of us. So that's like $1 billion water deal. So I can't do that.
Right.
You cannot get any water from them?
What's that?
You cannot get any
We
water?
are not currently plumbed to 91st.
That will change. Right, I guess, maybe.
There's all kinds of the future is full of opportunities.
I'm glad you're not good.
Some other utilities, maybe, yeah.
It does, yeah.
But you're not in any way,
They're very different than us.
yeah, okay. But you get some water from the city of that area.
We get some effluent, yeah, treated effluent, yeah. Is effluent the right word? Treated effluent? I don't know. Anyway, recycled water we get from the city of Buckeye. But no, our canal actually drains down to the Buckeye Water District Canal.
Okay.
So they pick up some of our drainage, and then they get water out of the river, which is really from 91st Avenue, as you already know. So, and I know that they've got some contractual agreements going on that I'm not aware of to get that water. And how they split that between what goes to APS and what goes to Buckeye, I don't know any of that stuff. But I know that that's all contracted for. So, and 91st Avenue is significantly more efficient, and so.
Where's 91st Avenue on that map, roughly?
Let's see. There's Agua Fria. And then we cross. So keep going left, Lisa. Keep going left, way over to the other side of the picture. Keep going, keep right. Almost one more. One more. There you go, right about there.
About 91st there?
Yeah. Can you read it, Shauna? Oh, yeah. I wasn't putting it in there for that level of detail, but it's about there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's lower.
But running north and south there is 91st, I think. Because we cross underneath the highway at, it might be where you were before, maybe a little bit further to the east, one more, yeah. Right there, I think. That's 91st. Yeah. It will cost a few bucks to get plumbed.
All right, well, we need to wrap this up. I want to thank our speakers today. Thank you, Donovan and Bob, for being with us. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
We'll conclude our webcast today for those of you that are joining us online. The webcast can be found on our section pages of the Water Reuse website. Thank you for attending, and for those who will be attending our section meeting via webinar, we will be muting the lines until we start the meeting at 12:15.